Hello out there. First stream, nothing crazy here. Really been wanting to do this for a while. I should turn my light on. Just I went to a boot camp and made a lot of apps. I could do a lot of coding myself, but I really never architected an application from start to finish. So I decided to kind of build one here, whether I use it for my own business or it's just for fun. We'll see. But it's really to both prove to myself that I can actually code, and any hiring managers that are looking to hire for the .NET web stack, just I want to be able to prove that I can do the work just as much to them as myself. A lot of stuff to learn out there, and I realize if I slow down, and don't do the work as I'm working and waiting and interviewing, trying to get a job, then my brain slows down. It's a lot different when you're in it nonstop. You really, I don't know. You really can focus on things even when you're in school and you're doing homework every couple of days. Going to class, it makes a big difference. Your mind is there working on that stuff most of the time, and having a full-time job outside of coding means that your mind is not, you have to be able to focus on that job. And in my case, I own a janitorial company, so it's one of those things that doesn't cross over in almost any way. But of course, today we're going to start making a janitorial tracking app, so it'll cross over a little bit. So I think about things while I'm at work that could be helpful, and it'll hopefully not be super long until I get a job, but if it is, then at least my skills will stay sharp because I'll be here coding with you guys. Even if I'm definitely not a professional streamer. I don't have the professional equipment. I may upgrade things in time, but for the moment, I want to be able to show work. So, I can have Visual Studio up. I'm here. I've got my own space. Originally, it was a built to be a streaming studio, and I kind of fell off of it when my company took off. So here we are, and I guess here we go. So as I said, none of this will ever be perfect, but if you're a junior developer out there that just kind of feels like they're not, you may be able to make things and go along with tutorials, but you want to prove to yourself and kind of get over that. Can't even think of the word. Where you don't belong. Imposter syndrome. If you want to get over your imposter syndrome, a big part of that is to say, well, all right, I can actually make these applications, and you have to believe that yourself. A big part of us being here, or me being here, is from that. It took me, honestly, 2 weeks to hit the go live button, just because I constantly was like, well, what if I can't do it? Am I proving to the world that I can't do it just because I put it out there? But if you're a junior developer that's coming up, record yourself. Go out there, do some work. The more of us, the better. It's I believe that you can learn a lot in a boot camp, but you really need to practice your skills and keep learning continuously. It's not a checklist. So, I've got several friends that are coming up along with me that believe it's a checklist, and it's not. So, and that being said, and this won't be a perfect thing. Might be streams where I'm sitting here snacking on stuff. Who knows? But I'm not pretty. Get over it. I'm not going for any of that. I just want to practice coding. I love doing it, and gaming's great too. I want to get back into gaming, but I want to be able to code first, and I want to have a job where I can support my family and not work insane hours as a janitor. So I've written down a number of things that I think would be useful on a janitorial tracking app, and I've got a whiteboard right here. And so I've been in a few interviews, and I can tell you that so let's start coming from the other side. I have interviewed hundreds of people. I was a regional maintenance manager, and I've been management and supervisor for going on about 15 years. And that's before I even owned my own company. So being on the interviewer side of the table is not as terrifying as being the interviewee, but you really, like, you can never know if that person is great. I have interviewed people that they've fooled me good, where I essentially thought they knew everything they were talking about, and then they get on the job and they just absolutely know none of the stuff that they claim to. So I start with that, or say, so I know that interviewers try and go back, especially to things that have worked previously, and they want to be able to see people use a whiteboard. I do not believe whiteboards truly are a good use for an interview. For one, you're already in there as an interviewee, shaking in your boots, and you don't have, like for me, I don't have the best handwriting. And you go ahead and double my heart rate, and it's not going to get any better. So, whiteboards have their place, and this is definitely one of them. Fantastic for documenting something that you want to be able to go back to and quickly adjust. But trying to solve problems on a whiteboard in front of several people, really not the best thing. But I figure writing on a whiteboard might help a little bit in interviews. So if you've got one, use it, and just while you're in an interview, maybe your hand will shake just a tenth less than it normally would. But we want to make a janitor tracking app. In this, I don't want to scope myself or limit myself down to just my company. Maybe later on, if things don't work out getting a job, I might just make apps and sell them. So let's make this a multi-tenant app. So we'll have like a company ID. Multi-tenant meaning, 8 different companies could pay to use my app, and not a single one of them would cross over in any way. All their data is only their own data. They're only going to be able to access their own data. I want it to be multi-user. And so multi-user. And, I want employees to be able to use this application. Customers. I don't know. Did I write anything else down on these? Obviously, administration is going to need to use this. So we really want kind of a wide variety of things. I want to be able to have authentication in there. So let's use identity to start. And I haven't used auth 2 yet, but let's put that in here to see if we can use it. And we're going to want, we are going to want it to have employees, admins, customers. These are more of a role versus something we're going to put in the object. Customer, maybe the object will have their role type in there, but I'm pretty sure it's just going to be a link in a table. We'll see. Etc. Maybe we'll think of something else. So we want multiple companies, multiple users. I want to be able to keep track of all of my customers. And under that, actually, we'll make it separate. Yeah, we might link this later. So I'm going to put contracts right underneath that. But contracts may be looked up specifically through the customer. So we've got those. What else do I have here? let's go with the more prominent ones first. I want inventories. That's a big thing. Then with the customers, for my customers, I want to be able to have an issue tracker. So with my business, as we're cleaning, we find things that are broken all the time. Whether it be a door, a sink, just little things all over the place. So, I want to be able to have issues that have been found that are either linked to the contract themselves or to the customer. It's likely going to be linked to the customer and have just a location and a picture to go along with it and a description. But we'll see exactly the best way to do that. Let's write linked to customer and contract. And let's do or contract. Not really sure the best way I'm going to parent-child relationship that yet. Customer or contract. I would like to have, for the jobs themselves, or for the contracts themselves, I want to have a job list, which would be responsibilities per contract. And I'm thinking a list that could be checkboxed off. It'll automatically put your initials as the user in there to say, hey, at this time I completed this task. Whether it's the entire contract or you could just go down a list really quickly on your phone, say that, and that, and maybe it'll scroll through. It'll go through a loop and say, oh, you didn't check this one. Is there an issue with that? And they can type something in like object wasn't used or lock changed, couldn't access, all sorts of stuff. And that's kind of going to be linked to the contract, so let's do that. I'll work that into something. This is going to be an invite only. So if, say, my company has one, I'll be the only one that'll be able to invite customers or one of my admins, customers or employees. So invite only. Not going to be able to log in and register to this, just coming in offline. It is going to be a web app, but that's kind of everything on this channel is a web app. Let's say web. I don't know how I'm working here with SQL database. Yeah, I'll probably use Postgres for it actually. PostgreSQL. Then let's have some notifications. I want to be able to, if an issue, let's say in the case of an issue or something comes up, or maybe there's a messaging app inside or a messaging capability between employees or bosses or the team or however we want to work it. I want to work some notifications in. With those notifications, so we're going to need an email service for sure. But I want those notifications to have the option to send an email. Email option. Always in app. So they're definitely always going to show up when you're in the app. But I want them to be able to send an email as well. I'm going to have histories for everything. So if a customer address changes or inventories are updated, etc., etc., would like to have histories. It's going to take quite a while to make this app, but let's say even from what we've got up here, I don't know, company history. It's nice to say show when a user was added. I want basic logging as well for user activities. We'll write this down here real quick so we remember it. Logging on the user level. That'll end up having to be done through each controller, I believe. I've only used logging in one place, and it was through the controller. But maybe we can learn how to do it for the user, for everything they do. But histories, I want to say, all right, I want a company history, a customer history. We're going to need a contract history. Inventory history. Going to be an object for every one of these, so. And we should be good on the histories with that for now. Put it etc. in case we think of something else. And then got some long-term goals. This is all the initial stuff. Actually, I want a nice dashboard. Just thinking of it. Nice dashboard. Let's put on there. We're going to want a calendar so we can see upcoming. Say, if you're an admin, if you got to do inventories, or if you got upcoming contracts for your team to clean, or if you're a team member, you want to see the contracts you've got that night. That could be on the calendar or could be in a list. But I'll put calendar, contracts. I don't know, they'll probably be, so one of my long-term goals, say long-term. I'll give myself a little more room just in case I want to write something else down there. Long-term budgets. Actually, invoices need to go up here too. Definitely want invoices. Invoicing. Alright, so we've got budgets. Down in the long-term goals, that's something that'll definitely be on the dashboard likely. Maybe I can make the dashboard configurable somehow. I'll probably need to add a different library, use a different library for that. I'm not 100% sure. I could make a really nice dashboard, but not a configurable one currently in ASP.NET. And I definitely think having it be configurable in the long run would be great. Not everyone is going to want the same stuff. But yeah, so we've calendar, contracts, budget. What other long-term things I've got on here? Definitely throw some graphs on the dashboard. Graphs, attention items. I'm not sure how to do it. But in order, I mean, if we make this an all-inclusive type of thing, we could put incoming email on this, and if the customer email that you have on there is contacted, possibly it'll show up straight to your attention items. I don't know, but let's say customer. Yeah, let's put incoming email on long term. There's got to be an API for that. I want to make all of this searchable, which is not that difficult, but always fun to figure out. I want an improvement section. Like, how did you use the app? Time tracking would definitely be advantageous down the road. Say time and location tracking. Location really not because you ever really want to track your employees. It's kind of a bad, I don't know, you don't want to set that as one of your requirements, but a lot of times my employees will call me and be like, I don't remember when I left the office. I clocked out like an hour later at home. So a lot of times I've got to look back at a location that is through one of the apps that we use and say, all right, well, you left the office at 2:45 in the morning. That's where we'll log you out. So we've got, user roles are kind of included in this, but we'll put user roles just so it's down there. I don't really need demo users, but let's put demo in because I'm trying to get a job and it's a lot more fun when somebody can go play with your app. But, alright, so we've got searchable improvements, logging's on there. Let's do some branding for long term. And custom error pages. Custom errors. Like 404. Access denied. Etc. Okay. So, not the best. There's a big old lamp in there too. Let's see if I can fix that. Plenty of stuff, not the best handwriting. But a lot of stuff to get to. And we'll probably end up find and add stuff to this as we go. But I think the ones we're going to want to start on first, which we'll do tonight. So we're going to need to make some objects in a bit, but the first one, if we're going to use identity, I'd like a few more things. We're not going to do OAuth 2 tonight. I'd like a few more things in the identity. I prefer to have names and, I don't know, we'll throw a dark mode or maybe a theme in there so that they can have a profile theme if they want it to be in dark mode, or maybe they want their screen to be purple. I don't know. We'll throw some themes in there. But you want to be able to add that into a user somewhere. That way you're not having to do it in JavaScript to load it on page. I'd much rather use MVC's power and Razor pages to load those correct CSS classes, throw it into the body so that there's a dark mode right there in the body or whatever theme they want. And it's just nicer to do that before the page loads, so you don't get that instant flicker for a second when it finally loads that JavaScript and says, oh, he wants dark mode, she wants dark mode, let's go to that. Because you can use local variables and whatnot, but it's just cleaner to use MVC's power. So we're going to extend the identity. Then we'll start working on some objects. Well, obviously we've got to create an object to extend identity in the first place, but I think we'll do our company object, customer, contract, inventory. So the job list, I think it's actually going to be it's going to be a list of jobs. And those jobs are going to be linked to a contract. Yeah. So we can make an issue object. And we'll see how far we get on this. Might as well just highlight all our objects. Invite's going to be an object. Notification's going to be an object. Each of these is going to be an object. Invoice is going to be an object. I think we also need an invoice item. Item as an object. And we can start with that for the objects, I think. Did I forget anything else on here? What do we got right now? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 objects. And I've got, shoot, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, yeah. So about the same thing. We can always add to it later. So yeah, so we're going to start with this. Make it so you can actually read it. Kind of. And then we'll see how far we get tonight. And we'll go in concurrence with the next stream and go where we are. So, let's switch over to Visual Studio. I'm going to open it up real quick. Let's go over here. Okay, for the moment, we haven't done anything yet, so let's create a new project. I would like ASP.NET Core web app. I need Model View Controller ASP Core web app. Let's call it Janitorial Tracker. I don't know. Yeah, Janitorial Tracker is fine. Good there. Should have introduced myself. I'm Ken, by the way. As the channel goes, Ken Codes. And I'm good where that everything is there. Still doing most everything in .NET 6. We'll probably play around in 7 a little bit down the road. But 6 is, as it says here, long-term support. We've still got about a year, I think, on that. I want to start with individual accounts for identity. Not using Docker. I don't have any experience with it just yet. Not yet. Yep, we're good. So let's create. I don't know why it wants to throw it over here. Okay, so we are in Visual Studio. The first thing we've got, real quick, I'm going to open up a project that I've got from something else so that I can grab some information from my Postgres. Okay. Waiting for that to do its thing. We're not creating. We are creating a database in this. It's just not going to be for a little while. We're not going to need it just yet, but we will go ahead and put that information in. So I'm going to use the manage user secrets. Got nothing just yet. All right, finally loaded. Let me grab it out of here. It's one of those things. I could type this in every time, but I'm not gonna. So I only want my Postgres settings. We'll put some mail in here later, but this is all local, so you're having it's not really gonna hurt me. All right, you having it doesn't hurt me. Let's make this janitorial tracker. Normal stuff, Postgres, local database password. Great. Won't have to worry about that for a little while. I'm going to go and change over to Postgres. I definitely want PostgreSQL and the latest version of .NET 6. Drop that in there. There. That. I know I'm gonna, so for that email, I'm gonna end up, let's put a few more in here too. Pretty sure I'll end up using the actual core there at the main. Let's put a PostgreSQL in there. Okay. And I'm gonna use, I know I'm gonna end up using MailKit. MailKit and MimeKit. Jeffrey Steadfast is the man. Not really sure who it is, but I've used these for a few projects and they make life easy. And let's say, I don't know if I've got it installed automatically already, but I need my Entity Framework stuff. Likely gonna need to update some stuff as we go. Not actually gonna need that. Do you want my tools? Okay, let's start with that. I can do some updates, but everything should be okay. Don't really need much after that, or for a little while. But in the boot camp, I learned code first. I still have to go and look up databases or database first, so it's never good for me. But yeah, let's start with that class. So we're gonna go ahead and create our janitorial tracker user. I'm gonna go ahead and extend the identity. I want identity import identity for this. No, import it, not. I wanted a using statement, not implicit. Okay, let's go up here and do it. Using Microsoft.ASP.NET Core identity. Pretty sure that was it. Well, what am I forgetting? Let's see. Oh, no duh. I need the identity user. I don't want the entire identity class. So identity user already has lots of stuff in it, including the username, email, phone, etc. I want to have a string that is first name. Yep, want a last name. We want that theme in there. I feel like we're going to make that an enum in time. So let's make that a string. I can pull the ID out of there, but we'll just make it a string for theme. What else do we want? Let's say a full name. Public string, full name. Get set. I don't want to have to put this in twice, so actually we're never going to have to set this. Let's take that set out of there and say, give me some string concatenation in here. And it's going to be first name plus last name. And anytime I want full name, it's just going to give me that. Oh. What am I doing? It's a string concatenation. I'll figure that out real quick. So just first name space last name. And I would like a little bit of data annotation here. I want to require our first name. And I'm going to do it as a display name for all of our fours. Name equals first name. And then let's do a string length on this. I don't know. 35 characters. I can't think of anybody that's there. Let's put an error message in there. Error message equals it's automatic string concatenation. I'm going to pretty this up. And it's going to be the first name. 0 is, in this case, is always going to say what the property is, the name of it. First name must be between 35, or in this case, the next one is going to be this character length. And I'm going to put minimum length in there as well. Actually, let's put 2 in there and then 1. That way it'll say, hey, put, it's got to be between 2 and 35 characters. It'll just be a little bit better user experience. It must be between 2 and 1 characters long. Then we want it out of that error message, and then minimum length. Yeah, but I want it to be like 2, because I know some people named Ed. Alright, so we're requiring the first name. If it comes up on an ASP.NET, or if it's got a label on it, it'll tell us first name instead of first name in one batch. And it's got a string length. We're going to put that same information on the last name, except I'd like it to be last name. Oh, it would also help if I put it on the last name and not above the first name again. I don't have a hotkey type of thing where it's going to show you all the stuff that I have, but I can tell you if I do something crazy. In the case of anything, if you ever hit Control Enter, it'll put a line above. So theme, I don't want to require the theme, so I also want to null that. I just don't. Especially, I don't want to set a default theme when everybody starts. Full name is obviously never going to be null, because the other two are going to be required. But in the database itself, if it catches it before we instantiate that name, Sure, let's make it null just to hide or keep ourselves from erroring out. So the theme. It's a string. I don't know. Can't imagine. So just to protect ourselves, I want to put a string length on this one. Really shouldn't need the protection, but people find all sorts of all sorts of places to squeeze in things, and our theme names are not going to be something crazy. Like my favorite color is lilac with green tinge. I mean, it's just going to be the name of something. So let's make it a 15 character, 20 character max. And there, that's just to protect us. So even though I said we're likely going to put this into an enum as well a little bit later, it should protect us from any kind of attack on there. Okay, what else in the BT user? Not BT, JT user. What have we got down here? Oh. Okay, I'm opening that. Oh, what in the world did I do? Name, theme. That, and that. Okay, so that's our get statement. So it needs to go there, right? No. It's definitely right, but yeah, I don't know. I haven't done anything. I usually don't put any thing like this in these. It's really the only case that I use them, so I haven't used them a lot. But what else? Do we want anything else in here? Let's make it possible to have photos. Whether it be an employee or a customer ID, the customer can have their picture or their company ID up there, company picture up there. So let's just call it an avatar file. What am I doing? I want to put this in using, I'm going to use an iForm file for these. So let's say avatar form file. Close it out. Not going to map the form file. And it's going to be an upload. So that will tell our form what it needs to look like. So data type dot upload. I want to put some created dates in here, but no, I'll check in a moment. Make sure I can do that, and make sure I want to do that in here. So I want a form file. So then I'm gonna want I'm gonna want a byte array. So we can use that, and then we're gonna have avatar image data. And then a public string, which gives me the avatar file type. Anything else? I think I might need the file name. Trying to think, I haven't typed one of those out in a while. So let's put a file name in here just in case. Avatar file name. I actually think we purposely don't save file names to the database or anything like that, just because you don't want them to use that file name to attack you. But yeah, So we could probably null all 4 of these. I do think I'm going to have a default, but just to protect myself for the moment from any errors, I'm going to put some nullables in there. Then I want all employees to be linked to a company, or customers to be linked to a company. So company properties public int, jeez, brain's not working. Public int, just company ID. Ooh, what the heck? Not sure what happened there. Company ID, get. I see, something just popped up there and I didn't even see what it was. Public int company ID. I don't know what was popping up. Anyway. And then I want to be able to pull company information later on. So let's do some navigational properties. So I've been told you don't need to put virtual, but I still do. I want to pull an object of type, oh, I haven't made company yet, so this is going to be mad, but object of type company, just name it company. That company ID, so the navigational property here, this company ID, the entity framework is going to tag this company ID and this company together. So it'll be, you know, it's something you want to have in there. And then I want so what do I want to access through this user? So if a user has access, so what do I want to say? All right, so let's say a customer is using this. So I want to say I want them to be able to, or I want to be able to pull all of their, I don't know, that specific customer contract through. Because the customers themselves, I expect to be like companies. So I want to be able to say like, hey, if, I don't know, management company, like, hey, what contracts does management company have? So I do think I want to put contracts in there. I think as far as the user goes, I'm going to have a customer user role. And then like an actual customer object, which will be more of a company. So there'll likely be customer user and customer object there. I don't know. So let's do public virtual collection of type contract. So all contracts get set equals new. Yeah, I want to do a hash set of type contract. Once I have that DB set and that actual thing created, we'll get rid of those errors. Don't really think there's anything else. I mean, as long as I can pull the company, if I can pull the company, I can pull pretty much any other information. Like, I really should work on maybe like a draw IO for the next stream. Get that information down a little bit better. Draw IO is a fantastic resource. I just started using it a couple weeks ago. Buddy over at Equifax pointed me in the right direction for that. And just fantastic. Is that once you learn how to use it, it's a very simple flowchart and schematic. You can use database tables. At one point, I saw someone use a database graphic essentially right here in Visual Studio. I haven't figured out how to use that. I don't know where it is. Might have been an extension they were using. May have been something with the database first modeling. But in terms of the actual code first models, I haven't seen it. But regardless, it doesn't matter for now. But let's go ahead. We'll create a company just so we can clean this stuff up. Company. And they're going to have an ID, a name, a description. And what else could a company have? There's not really a lot in a company itself, but we do want to be able to use the company to pull information back. So I think navigational properties are going to be our big one here. Navigational properties. Let's say I want to be able to pull all of the users back associated with that company. So public virtual, virtual. Yeah, it's really going to be an all information. It's not going to be a specific ID linked to that. So I'm not using foreign IDs here. I'm just going to use hash sets. So iCollection, let's say JT user, users, and actually we're going to call those members because I'd like to distinguish that later. Users versus members. User will be someone incoming that hasn't been that their invite hasn't assigned them to the correct place yet, or something. I don't know. User seems a little bit more arbitrary to me than members does. You're actually a company member at that point. But I'm gonna be able to do a hash set for this. Oh, JT user. What else do we want? We want to be able to pull all the contracts that company has. Contract. Again, it's going to be mad because we don't have the DB sets put in place yet. Or the contract object, or yeah, so we got some work ahead of us. Hash set of contract. And spell collection right. And then I want to be able to pull as a company. I'm able to pull their customers individually. Could go through contracts and say, all right, give me the links for these, but I'd rather make that easier for myself now, because there's going to be a lot of times where we're going to want to deal with customers that are not, like when we're not dealing with their contracts. It's like addresses, invoicing, and things like that. We're going to want to be able to pull information before we're getting to the contract information. But I mean, invoicing was a bad example there because we're very likely going to use contracts specifically for that. And then, is there anything else right now that I can think of? We want to make this invite only. So at one point or another, I want to be able to see the invites that are specific to that company. Really should just hit tab on that one. Anything else? The histories will be fine. That'll all go through contracts and jobs, etc. What did our list have? Oh, look at the list! Inventories. I do think we need to have something in there for inventories. Later on, we'll add in budgeting and stuff like that, but I don't anticipate making those objects right off the bat here. But inventories are going to be a big one. So let's put inventory in there for now. Inventories. Get set equals new. Thank you, Virtual Studio. Alright, we made it mad. Okay, one thing I didn't do right off the bat, which should have been done, is to create a repository on GitHub for this. One thing I want to be able to show is feature branches. So I'm going to create the main. We're going to use Visual Studio, forget ignore. License, not too worried about it. It'll be private repository. I'm rating 001 on GitHub. I'll put links to everything eventually in descriptions, and there are links, I believe, on the actual page, or the user page for Ken Codes. And let's say a janitorial tracking application. Can add that to later. I want to add to README because I'm going to end up adding a lot more to that later. And then we'll create and push. Okay, initial commit. That's great. So when you get created, perfect. So in the actual real world, I don't have a lot of real world experience, but when we used Git for the company I worked for before, essentially when you're trying to submit data or trying to submit work, you want to be able to code review that. You want to be able to keep everything separate. So branches are a huge thing. So even though I've already got some information on main, it's okay. I want to go ahead and hit new branch. And let's call this branch initial initial objects There's a lot of times you'll have feature / notifications or something like that. So we're going to base it on main. I'm going to create it. And now all the work I do is going to be on initial objects. All of my commits will be tracked separately. And then, let's say once we actually finish all these initial objects that I have, I'll be able to do a pull request, which if you're new to everything, it's basically a merge. When you want to do a pull request, you can go and submit it. Say, when you're working for a larger company, you'll end up having it have someone will do a code review on you. You can't push or merge directly into your main or your master by yourself. Like, someone else is going to do that for you, but you want to do that pull request, which also means merge. And just the same, a buddy of mine explained all of this to me initially. It's really good information to have, because you never really see the way most companies are going to use this information. GitHub is fantastic. You use it a lot in your junior development role at boot camps or school, anything like that. You should repo everything. It's not a problem to have way too much stuff on your repo in your GitHub. You just make it all private if you don't want people to see it. But once you go to do that pull request, you submit it, you do the code review, and if it's done on your side, you say, go ahead, do your thing and you move on to the next one. You create a new branch off of something that is the old one. If you need the work that you just did for the new one, there are a couple other things you can do off of that as well. You can create the branch, or they can rush it to actually do the pull request. But there are a couple options there. I can't remember off the top of my head how, because there is a way to do that right there in GitHub to say, hey, I want to pull request this, but I need this information for my next thing. There is a way to do that and to work that into your version control, but nonetheless, the most important part here is that when you're working, you're not working off the main branch. And likely you won't even have access to be able to do that. You'll be able to pull that into your environment and then use other branches, but yeah, I mean they can restrict you being able to just do anything to the main branch, which they likely will. But yeah, so you've now created a branch based off of the initial, off the main, and I've called it here initial objects. So everything I do is going to be tracked on that branch, and then eventually I'll do a pull request into it. So we've got a company object. Really should let's make a little notation checklist here. Company. I really wanted like a better list here, but let's just put a check mark there. And our identity extension is here. We're not done extending identity. We got a lot of work to do there, actually. For starters, since I might as well jump over to that, I just really don't want to have all this angry stuff, but the more navigational properties I put in, the more angry we're going to make this. But let's jump into program. Earlier on, I jumped into my NuGet package manager so that I could get PostgreSQL. It's really for this right here. So I actually want to use MPG SQL instead. And I'm also not looking for default connection. I've got a little bit of something over here that I like to use. Spent some time coding this up in the boot camp itself. Where are you? So it's actually my environmental. It gives me the ability to use the environment, like when I put this up on Railway or something like that, or use the actual local connection. And I'm pretty sure I've got it in here. Yeah, I'm gonna have to cut it out of here later. So for the moment, what we'll do is I will open up another old program. So we're gonna use the builder.configuration. We're gonna get rid of this and say .get section. Yeah, we're gonna get a section. That section is called PG settings. And then what did I call that? Let's go back and take a look. PG connection. PG settings. And the section is PG connection. So this is going to use, it's basically going to go out searching. It'll search your app settings. It'll search the secrets. If we go into this, actually look at the definition, we might even be able to find it. If I don't want to, we'll see if I search deep enough in this. Get section. We've given it the string key. I want Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna dig that far into this. But as I say, we learned how to look. We learned why this does the thing it does quite a while back. But nonetheless, get section is just looking for a section that says this with a subsection named this. So when it goes to my secrets, it's going to find PG settings, then it will find PG connection, and it'll use that information. And that's just making my connection string. And then down here in the application DB context, we're actually using the connection string for this use Postgres, use PGL. So we've got gonna move stuff around over here. This is my sippy cup. You will see it a lot. I should name it. But really quickly. Okay. So as I said, we got other work to do. I don't want to use the identity user. And we're doing this before we actually go to our do our database and everything, or before we scaffold identity, because you want to tell, and we're not using the default identity anymore, so you gotta get rid of the default. I want to tell ASP.NET that I want to use the janitorial user object, which is extended from identity user, not identity builder. But I'm using the JT user, and I want to use the identity role. So even looking down here, I'm extending the method. I'm using the user that we created, and I'm still using identity role. I'm not extending the identity role in any way. I don't know how to do that, or if you can, but if you were to use a different type of role as it appears down here, you would definitely put it here as well. And there are a few things I'm going to want to add here. Don't need to add the authorization, because we'll handle that a little bit later. I do want to add identity role, or add roles. What are we doing? I need this to be directly here. So I want it to be above here. So add roles. That's going to be identity role. Identity role. And what else do we want? I want my identity framework to be there. I'm going to add later on I'm going to end up doing a user claim factory, where I'm going to add that company ID into it, just so I can pull it anywhere. You're going to have to be logged in to use this application. So anytime you go to pull information, you'll have I'll be able to just have that company ID there. It'll only have to pull it once, so it's not just constantly accessing the database. I do want the default UI. Let's add the default UI. I do want the default token. Token. Oh, I didn't put them. Right? Add default UI, and then, yeah, not add default token providers. Yeah, so later I'll need to come in here and add that company ID factory in, but I don't need it just yet. I want Razor Pages. It's going to yell at me later. So it's trying to map the Razor Pages, but I don't have it in here. So I will definitely want to add that in the services up here. Controllers with views. good. I don't know. We can put it above that so that if it's trying to load it in with the controller's reviews. Builder.services.add razor pages. These are just things I've run into problems with before, so I'm adding them because I don't feel like dealing with the errors later. Okay, we'll definitely have to come, when we do our data utility for the demo users that we were talking about, I'll make sure to do the environmental controls in there so that this will also work, and then we'll come back and change this section. Okay, so back to objects. So when we, I guess really quick explanation here, we've added an object that's going to extend the identity user. And now we're telling the program itself, instead of using the default identity user, I want to use this identity user, which is an extension of identity user. And I'm going to use the identity role. So I want to put roles in there. We'll end up using the role manager later on. So we'll make a role service. And then, yeah, it's like so, so that way when we go to extend everything later, it will know exactly what to use there. We do need to still go into our application DB context. And instead of, I believe it's right here. Let me check on that one. Yeah, we need to tell it the type that we want to use instead of just that default. So janitorial tracker user. Now we'll be good. Now everything should be good there. We can start putting in the public. Oh, because I'm inside of my thing there. I was like, why didn't that work? Public. Again with the virtuals. All of our DB sets. Let me just make a nice line out here. Company, we're going to name it companies. I want to pluralize that. Complete. Honestly, we'll wait for this one. I just want to go make all the objects. And then we'll come back and make all of these before we run our database initialization. So we've got company. Let's go back to our list. Got identity. Let's do a customer. We'll add class customer. Every customer is going to have an ID. Now remember, this is a customer, like business-wise. So we're also going to need a name. We're going to have to go back and do some data annotation on this stuff. The email for primary email, phone, address for sure. Yeah, we want a city. I don't want a region, I want a state. City, state, not state. State, zip code. I want a description. How about a... Alright, so that's basic information up there. Email, phone, address. How about a primary contact? Public string. Primary contact. Yeah, we'll keep it there. Secondary. We're going to make a lot of this nullable, because I have definitely had a lot of addresses that I didn't want to fill out. Some people don't even have phone numbers. Email. I do want a name and description for everything. Primary contact, I don't always have that. Same with the secondary contact. Let's put the number in here as well. Public int. I don't believe there's a phone specific one. We'll just go with int. But C# variable type. Good. Phone number. Let's see what the best use case is for this. Get annotations. Actually, I need to do this so you guys can see too. Two ways, yep. And I will definitely do a data annotation on there for a data type, but yeah, it seems that they're just using a string. And I don't plan on making an object for specific phone numbers or anything like so. Okay. String it is. Primary phone number. Do that just in case. And yep. And I do want to be able to set that as well. Okay, back to the customer. I also want the customer to have images. So again, let's make a public iForm file. Customer form file. I'm going to make this a not mapped right off the bat, so I don't forget. We're going to make it a data type. Upload. And for the life of me, I can't remember what else we did with that. Where's our user? Yeah, nothing else. Just null it. Excuse me. Alright, so we've got that. Let's make the string for the customer image name. Make the byte array. Data. And then let's make another string for customer image type. Null it all, not guaranteeing that we're going to use it. Okay, so our customer now has, we can track it in the database. We've got a name, description, email, phone, address, primary contact, and a secondary contact. You know what, let's not have email up here. Let's do the contact emails. Public string, primary contact email. Public string, secondary contact email. Alright. Misspell anything. Description, phone, address, city, state, zip code, primary contact phone number, primary contact email, secondary contact phone number, secondary contact email. Got customer form file, customer image name, customer image data. Sorry, I'm moving too far away from my microphone. Customer image data, yep. So customer image file type, or customer image type, okay. Right offhand, I can't think of anything else that would be useful on the customer. I would like some navigational properties in here. Some collections. Customer needs to have a company ID as well. Public int company ID. So we're going to need to have a company down here as well. Public virtual company. Then I want some collections, virtual contracts. What am I doing? My collection. Type contract. Contracts equals new hash set of contracts. And then let's put a user, well, so when I create the so in the JT user, I'm going to want to have down here with the company ID, I'm going to want it to have a customer ID. Because if there's going to be specific customers, like if I have, let's say, a maintenance technician or something like that, that is tied, that's a user of this application, that is tied to a specific customer, like a management company, I want to be able to link that customer ID with customer down here. So then with that, we'll have a public virtual customer, type customer of customer, and it's going to link straight to that ID. And that should solve that issue later on for us. So we won't need to be able to pull all the members for a customer or anything like that. That parent, that relationship there, will fix that. But as a customer, we really only have the contracts we need to be able to pull. A customer can have several different contracts, like a management company can give you, I don't know, 10 different offices or buildings to clean. But you're going to create an individual contract for each actual contract. Like if it's Doctor Office 1, you'll have, Doctor Office 1 as a contract, even though it's linked to that customer. So we've got a company, and that's going to be the actual, like my janitorial company only has access to this data. So I'm pulling that company through there. The customer. Over here. Yeah, we've got a two-way on that one. I'll be able to access all that through the company. Let's get the inventories. Virtual collection of inventories. Get set. We may delete this one later. That depends on how I want to access it. Inventory. But I think it'll be a good place to start it. So everything else is good through the company. And for the customer. Okay. I'm going to come back to that one later. We're good. So let's commit. Add customer object. And associated navigational properties in JT user. Commit, push. Just want to log your commits for everything that you're doing there. Just because it's a real pain in the butt. If you have 700 lines of code in one commit, small, bite-sized chunks are much nicer. At least for your whoever's analyzing your code. So now let's do inventory, I guess. On the list, what's the next one down? We've already got contract, customers, company. We definitely have not created contract here yet. Actually, let's do contract. Contract's going to need an ID. I'm going to need a company ID. Can't access anything without being able to link, or can't have any information not linked to a company. In fact, let's make sure we've actually added that to everything, just to make sure. Obviously, the company ID itself is not a foreign ID. We have company ID there. Customer's got a company ID. Contract's got a customer ID. So the contract itself, I want to be able to link it to many to many here, or one to many. So actually, it'd kind of be many to many, but yeah, company and customer. I want to be able to link these kind of in a broad way. That's why I say we may constrict this down a little bit later, but let's have our customer ID, because there must be a customer that it's linked to. We need to go do our data annotations actually before I forget about those too. I kind of hate going back and having to do all the data annotations at once. So let's go to customer first. Okay, so we're going to require our customer ID, our company ID. We're going to require the name of a company. We'll put a string length. Actually, we'll put a display name on that first. This is the, what is this? Just the name. So let's say company name. No, customer name. I'm in the customer object. Customer name. And then let's put a string length on there. And I don't know, this one could be a little bit longer. 75. And I'm going to put an error message in there. Error message equals the customer name must be between lower number and higher number characters long. And minimum string length. Shoot, I've never seen a company name less than 2. I might actually just leave that out. Must be less than . Yeah, so customer name must be less than 75 characters long. I'm not going to put a minimum on that one. Your company name or customer name could be Q. I don't know. I've seen some weird ones out there. But yeah, so that's there. Let's do the same with the description. Kind of. I don't want to require a description. Customer description. And we're going to make it a heck of a lot longer. Let's say 500 characters. So I'm not requiring it, so I'm going to do that there. Name is required. Can stay non-nullable. The company ID, no this customer should not ever enter the database without being linked to a company ID. Because there should never be a customer that is just floating out there. This is a multi-tenant program. Good there, everything's nullable. Don't think I ever need to worry about that. That doesn't need to be nullable. Okay. Do some more prettying up here. Don't really think I need even the display name on that one, but phone, I'd like this to say phone number, display name equals phone number. And I'd like it to be a data type. Data type dot phone number. Then we're going to do a data type. I think I can do a data type of address down here. Data type, address. Nope, only email. That's okay then. Do the emails. Fix all these up. Let's grab these two. So primary contact. And I don't know, let's put 50. One thing I'm thinking about here for the customer, I almost want to put a supplier into these, but I think I'm going to put a supplier into the inventory. So, but we might change that later. Primary contact, secondary contact, secondary contact. And then let's put a primary contact phone number. That is a phone number. Put that on both this and the secondary. Secondary. And we'll need an email, which we can grab the same thing here. Contact email, but instead of phone number, we need it to be email address. I'll grab that. Secondary contact email. Could make this an object, a contact object. That way I could loop through different contacts that were based on that customer. So I can make a customer contact instead of doing it here. Because this is just going to get cumbersome. And then primary would always be, I could make it so primary is always 1. Then we could make a list where we can move them up and down. Let's do that. So we're going to grab all of this right here. And we got contact, phone number, and email. So we don't want that. I want this. I'm going to grab that. Create a new class really quick. So customer contact. And then we're going to go ID. Then we're going to have a name. Still need a company ID. Public. And company ID. And public int customer ID. Okay. Then we'll do some navigational. Now still a little vague. I may not need, because the way I'm using the service layer here, I may not need the navigational properties in here. Because I can, when I'm in the customer itself, I can just have the customer contact navigational properties and make that hash set. I don't really think I'll ever need to. You never know. I might want to look up primary contact and say what customer or company does this guy work for, or girl. So public virtual. Want that company. Fine. Then I would like the customer. Yep. And that's it. I don't need, like, I just want to pull that information back when I pull this customer contact. I don't need to pull any other collections or anything back with that. So that one is done. So we're going to require those. Give myself a little more space there. And I'm going to require that that customer and that company exist. Okay. What have I added here? Did a little bit of data annotation on the customer. Okay. And I added, I'm still going to do contract, but I'll write real quick here. I'm going to say added customer object. No. Added customer contact object and data annotations to customer. Created contract object is not complete. It's a little sloppy. I like to have things like one object at a time, but it's alright. We'll do the contract right now. So the contract is going to be linked to a customer. Obviously, it's going to be linked to a company. It's going to have its own ID in the database. And then the contract should have a name. A description. Do you want an address? No. And then we need, so I want to put it here. Maybe I'm thinking like a key code. So is it better to put the key code here? Or should I put it somewhere else? Yeah, I can put it here, and then I can access it in a different way. I don't like that. I'd rather use a hasher on it. So we might come back and add an object for the, or add a property for this later. because I'm not 100% sure if that hasher is going to require an object for that. Actually, let's put a string in here called key code, and I'm pretty sure I can save a hashed bit of information into that. It might need to be a GUID, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a key code. But that's the door code. Sometimes, yeah, they actually give you the 5, like the key teeth themselves. Like, we get all sorts of information, but I really don't want that info just uploaded every time you access something, or downloaded every time you access. And it definitely needs to be a bit more secure than just throwing it into the database. So, contract. Do I want to put pricing in here? Yeah. Public. Decimal. Contract price. I definitely want it to be that. I want to go back really quick and create a couple of date properties. Public, date time, offset, created. It's going to be required. And then I'm going to have public, date time, offset, updated, which is not going to be required. Or even like this right here, I could make this not required, but the issue with it is if we go to pull that data, if we've never updated it, if it's not nullable, it'll just show a bunch of zeros, or put whatever the default data is in there. So I'd rather that just be able to be empty. So I do want a little bit of display name on here. Name equals customer created, yeah, customer, yeah, creation date. Honestly, I probably don't even need it to be a date time. It could probably just be a date, but customer record customer updated. Customer created and updated. Let's go with that. See how it looks later. You can always change it. Got that. Company. This will just be for the admins, but we'll do the same. Date, time, offset, created. I don't know why I'm not just copying that. Just grab this whole thing. Instead of this, we'll just say company. Okay. Again, this will be more for the admins. They have to go in, change some things for the company itself. Company admin itself will be able to change company details. So that might be something that I keep updating in there. We'll see. I mean, I'm definitely going to use the updated. I just don't know if I'll use it for, like, yeah, I probably will. I'll use it for the actual user of the company that goes in there and changes things. And users, the same. I want a creation date for the user. Actually, is there a creation date already? Why is my control not working? So we've got username. Normalize user email, normalize email, confirmation, password hash, security. No, there's no creation or anything in there, so we'll create the created as well in here. User created, user updated. Okay. Now the contract, again, I want to require the name. I don't necessarily want to require a description, but it seems kind of silly not to, but yeah, I mean, I've put in enough contracts where I didn't feel like putting it in, so I don't want to make people do that. And decimal contract price is okay. It would also put 0 in if you don't have it nullable. And that, I don't know, let's keep that as that, because I don't actually want to have to type dot value on the end of every one of those. And in addition, I also don't want a nullable item to somehow get into, let's say, report and just have a blank space. I'd rather just say 0 and then we calculate off of that. So that's a contract price. Public. Let's put a double in there. Actually, what is my best option here? Let's go back to Google. Small decimal. C#. I don't know if I want to use a float or a double. Pretty sure float would be just fine. Oh, you're way too large. Let's Google something different here. C# variable number sizes. Yeah. Honestly, if I just keep it. Yeah, because I want to be able to have partials. Yeah, float should be absolutely fine here. Could use a double, but it's just being a little more efficient. Like, there's no way we're going to say that this contract is going to take an insane amount of hours. I mean, 4 bytes is still pretty darn big. 32 bits of information can store quite a few numbers. So we can make it a float. We'll call it contract. Now let's call it hourly. Getting tired here. Hourly requirement for now. That way if I go to put it in something, it's like, alright, well that's a 3-hour contract. I should have that information in there. If I go to pull, let's say, a customer, I want to be able to say, this customer provides us with 71 hours of work a week. Don't lose them. Okay. be able to put work days in there as well. Public day. Let's go day of week. Work day. Day of week. Can I make that plural? C# day of week. Plural. Pluralized day, week, month based on system day of week. Starting a system day of the week enum containing Sunday, Saturday. Joda has values and date time constants from Monday to I'm not using Joda. That's exactly what I thought. 2 enums. Kind of resent that neither of them has Sunday equal 1. Yes, I assume connected to a certain calendar. What calendar? Yeah. Think I'll have an object here as well. Need to separate this. Honestly, contract info. Yeah, I definitely want to separate that out just for ease of things later. I know it seems easier to put it all in this one object, but I'm gonna have one object, but I want to be able to query and say, okay, so for this contract, we want to have multiple visits. So let's do that. So we've got add. So I want a contract visit object. Split the screen there. And on that, I'd like to have this information. Workday. And it could definitely have a different, like some days we'll go to a place and we'll only work for an hour. And we get paid less for that because of that. So this contract visit can definitely be something that's specific to that day. So we'll go on Saturday, it'll be way less work. Wednesday will be way more because we know that it's either different items or there are just 18 more people in the office type of thing. So it can make a big difference. So let's do it that way. And this contract visit, I want it to have an ID, of course, but I want it to have a link to the contract ID. And then a navigational property down here. Propertos is going to be a virtual contract. So it'll link to that. I gotta check something really quick here. So if I've got, pop the back. So if I've got a contract, this is where that draw IO would come in handy. Definitely need to work on that before the next stream. So got a contract. I want to be able to link that to it. This is a visit. Let's say it's a thing like this. I only really want to link it to the contract could assign a user, like an employee to that. That could be a neat thing to do there. So that if we wanted to say, all right, we'll look up all of this employee, so like if somebody's sick, look up all this employee's work for the day or the week, and then we can transfer it around as needed. That's an added feature right there. Let's write that down. Sick employee work transfer. I'll write in quotation or in parentheses temporary work shift. Yeah, so for now then, let's say, do I need to, I'm going to need a user ID for that up here. So let's put a public string, because I'm using identity, so all of my IDs for users are strings. Put that up here. And then I just want user. I'm going to link it to that user ID. So I want a public virtual P janitorial tracker. Yeah, J2 user of type J2 user, name it user, get it set it so I can link that. And I want, it's no guarantee that this visit's going to have that or have a user tied to it. Could just be blank. Can't see any possible way that a contract visit isn't going to have a contract tied to it, so we'll leave that one there. Yeah, it'll have a day of the week. This is day of the week is just an enum, as you can see there. So I'll be able to, I think it's 0 is Sunday. No, I'll have to look it up. What am I doing? I could probably just look it up right here. Yeah, 0 is Sunday. And then right down to the 6th there for Saturday. I could always change it if I really wanted to, but this is a system thing, and I want, you don't ever really want to go in and break those. So I could make another enum if I wanted, if my company operated on different days, which I might, because my company actually operates Monday through Sunday. And that, especially when I get into time tracking, the days of the week will matter because of payroll. You don't want to have it say, all right, well, I need you to search 1 through 1 on the scope there. You can control it however you want, but I don't know, just better user experience or better programmer experience, let's say that. I might end up changing that later. I likely will, but I'm not doing it right now. Okay, so right now, all right, we've got a contract visit. It'll have an ID, a user ID linked to it. It'll always have a contract. I will need a company ID. Because you cannot have any information in the database that doesn't have a company tied to it. And I think that's it. We don't need a ton of info. I just want to be able to pull back a list of visits or one single visit if needed, but it'll come back as a list that says, all right, this contract is done on these days. I mean, the default will be to just copy that contract visit over for every day, but you'll be able to change every day if you really want to. Okay, I'm happy with that. As I said, might change it later. We'll see. Contract visit's done. So outside of the visit, we've got an ID. We're linking it to the company, customer. The contract itself will have a name, description. the place and information they may need. I feel like there's more to a contract, but maybe not. Let's just put some navigational properties in. Navigational properties. Getting pretty late. I probably am gonna have to end the stream after this object. It's 3:30 my time in the morning. And you'll see me on a lot late nights just because being a janitor, I work a lot at night. It's one of the big reasons I'm moving into software engineering. I'd like to be awake when my family is. So navigational properties, public virtual. So we're going to need to know the company. Company. We're going to need to know the customer. And I want to be able to pull a collection of the contract visits. Don't believe anything else is going to be needed for that, because the visit itself is going to be tied to a user or an employee. I want a supervisor ID. Like if you had a supervisor that was going to be, yeah, gotta think of that scope. So we'll add getting the whiteboard out here. You're not seeing me on Visual Studio for a second here. So on the users, the customer is going to be added. Let's say supervisor. Etc. Because there will be companies out there that may want to use this that have supervisors overseeing their employees. So I'm going to want public string user ID. I could put supervisor ID, but let's go user ID. No, let's go supervisor ID. I'm also going to put a couple of display names on this. Equals, I think this is the company. Yeah. Company ID, company name. That's all we really, anytime we pull this, we're going to get the name from it. And then we'll want the customer name. Okay. And then we'll want the supervisor name. That can be nullable for sure, because we're not always going to have a supervisor. We are going to have a customer tied to that and a company though. So we're going to want a public virtual janitorial tracker user, JT user, of supervisor. Okay. Entity Framework's going to know that we want to go look for all the users. Yeah, so I'll be able to deal with that with a query. I'm getting all the visits. We've got a supervisor that will oversee this contract. We've got employees in the contract visits that I'll be able to pull through that. And we've got the company and the customer. I think that's about it for that. Let's go ahead and commit that. Add contract object. Actually, I've already added it. So complete contract object. Add contract visit object. Child of contract. And added some created / updated properties to multiple objects. Yeah, we've got that. Got the user created and updated. Customer. Can't believe I didn't put it in here. Okay, so grab this. When did we gain this contract? Contract created and contract updated. We don't need that on the visit, because when I do the visit, when I change a visit for that and it's linked to that, I'll do an update on the contract. And there will be a history for that contract, as we have down there in our lovely list. Contract history. So when we pull that, it'll also pull a list of the history, and you'll be able to see that a day was added or removed, hours were changed or limited. We'll do some work when we go through that, do some no tracking. I don't know, man. Entity Framework is just so powerful. It's a beautiful thing. But yeah, okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, what am I doing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5. Kind of 6 of our objects. 5 actual objects that we're working with, and then 6 is just our extension. Out of our 15. We won't have to do a lot more prep on the next one, so we should hopefully be able to knock out the rest of the objects next time. I've got to work a 14-hour day tomorrow, so I won't be able to get on tomorrow night, but I will be back on Monday night to create those objects, and we will likely start with inventory. And inventory is going to have inventory and inventory item. In the inventory item, we're going to have a supplier, and I think that supplier will actually be an object as well. It's just nice to be able to have that there, and sometimes you'll switch suppliers on an object or on an item when you're working out there, so whether they just stop providing it or it's just a better price elsewhere, or you can negotiate a better price. So that's one thing. So let's add that into our list just so we have it, so we remember it tomorrow or on Monday. I'm going to try and make that draw.io before then. Really quick. So we've done that, committed all, and then push. Again, bite-sized pieces, always the better way to go there. Let's switch back to the scary guy with the whiteboard. Alright, so inventories, I'd also like to see them have inventory item. And from that we'll have a supplier. and all the juicy information for the supplier, of course. It'll have an ID, link to the company, etc. But all the primary contacts and etc. etc. In this, so for the inventory, at one point I want to create something that allows, say, all right, I'm going through, I do the inventory, it's going to create a list for whoever's using the application doing the inventory. Want it to be able to say, well, this is our regular stock. I don't need this in my lap. We always want to have 8 of these on stock, 8 cases of paper towels or something like that. And if it only has 5, I want 3 of those to be added to a list, and that 3 will be on a list that is going to get sent to whatever supplier. So let's say if I'm doing an inventory for building A, and when I finish that inventory, I would like it to email or send out several emails, create the emails for me in the application that say, building A is ready, good morning, primary contact name, building A, located at primary A address or contract address, inventory address, however we end up doing that, is ready for an inventory or ready for an order, and the order consists of : one, just drop the list in there. I want 3 boxes of paper towels. I want a box of soap. I want a box of toilet paper. And the inventory item will have those the item numbers in them. So that it'll make it easy for your supplier just to say, all right, I need 3 of these, 1 of those, 2 of those, etc. And they love that. Honestly, even giving them all those numbers sometimes will make it. They'll make mistakes. We'll get 6 boxes and we only ordered 1, etc. So if I do that, I want to be able to, like, when I create an inventory, if I'm creating that, maybe I'll create an inventory order of sorts. I'll have to think about that one. I'm going to write that in my notes. Inventory order, ? Order, ? How? Because I want to be able to track what was ordered from that supplier. That way, when I actually get that order in, I can go through the list and say, I ordered 3 of these, I got 3 of these. So I don't want it to be go through the list or just going through and say, all right, I'm putting information in. I do want to be able to say, well, this is the list. This is that order. I ordered 3, but I got 6. So if I do that, I still want to be able to capture that information. And then once that information is captured, decide what to do with it. It'll read out and say, you got more than you ordered for this. Do you want to contact the supplier and send them back, or what? Because we have to pay for supplies, so all of that information needs to go somewhere. So just because you order something of 3 boxes of toilet paper, whatever, it's $20 a box of toilet paper. That's $60 you're expecting, and now your budget just got thrown off because you got twice as much of that, and they're charging you for that. So it's $60 off on your budget. Something's gonna be weird. You don't want that to happen. So yeah, we'll have some work to do on the inventory. That'll be an interesting one. A little more in depth. Inventory might have been one of the last things we should have done, but since we did customers, we might do issues first. And the contracts, I want them to be able to have a job, because I want the employees to be able to have a list of things that they have to complete in that office. Nobody's perfect. Even when I'm out there, I miss things, but it's nice to be able to go down the list and be like, oh, I was responsible to do that. I need to go back and do that. And then it just helps things a little bit, because every contract is different. So, and that's this is just for a janitorial app. So is kind of the process in my mind of architecting something, planning. It's really the planning and design aspect of it. And it's funny, so I've got a bachelor's degree in architecture, never became an architect, so I didn't get my master's. But, like it makes my brain itch right now because I know I didn't do the proper planning for this. I should have gone through that draw IO, figured out how all the objects and properties are going to work with each other. That way I'd have that table and chart right there. So I will really try and get that done by Monday. But yeah, appreciate you tuning in. As I said, I don't actually expect anyone to watch these. I'm not here for the money or anything. I'm here for the practice. And if, just seeing how I work through things, the better I can get, the happier any employer will be. So have a great night and see you in a couple of days.